Good morning and welcome to Tuesdays Behind the Screen. I am JM. This is a show where we talk about game design, game reviews, campaign design, adventures. We talk about all things gaming. And so I have been furiously at work today, editing new production or iconic podcast episodes. I'm writing a paper that's hopefully going to get published later this year about RPGs as mythic liturgy, which I'm really excited about. But putting all of that aside to come and talk gaming this morning. Big shout out to Bob Crumb, who's in the chat. If you did not look at our unboxing of his Dark Patina videos last week, or his Dark Patina cards last week, you need to check this out. Uh, Also, Bob, this is just beautiful and I love it. Yeah, like it should be pretty interesting. Maybe I should do a discussion on the paper and kind of talk about my tack on that, but I don't think you can play a role-playing game and not see sort of the mythic liturgical underpinnings of it once we all get engaged with it. So, lots going on behind the screen today. Just want to say if you are a fan of the Torg show, and iconic production. We've got a big announcement coming tonight on the Torg stream on the Ulysses International channel. So if you have a chance, jump on there tonight, Ulysses International at 7:30 Central. We're running our new Torg campaign there, and we will be making a pretty big announcement, I think, as it relates to Torg and iconic production. So, a bit of a spoiler there, if you will. I mean, with Bob on here. Hey, Ulysses, good to see ya. Speak of the devil, and they shall appear. Um, Speaking of spoilers and trailers, Bob, when we get our Dark Souls RPG book in, I think I need to have you on here so we can discuss this. I have heard exactly two things about the Dark Souls RPG. One is beautiful and the art captures the feel of Dark Souls. And two, it is a hot mess and I can't wait to dissect it. I may have to do a whole one of my favorite film review YouTube channels has this thing where they try to fix movies, where they go through and there's like, here's what's wrong with the movie. How would I fix it? If the Dark Souls RPG promises to be as hot of a mess as I am reading, maybe we will do a game clinic where we talk about how we would fix the Dark Souls RPG. Again, I haven't seen it yet. I don't have it in my hands. I'm just basing this off other videos and reviews that I have read. Also, big shout out to my friend Kelly, who provided me with this wonderful t shirt with the Crystal Bridge Trading Company emblem on it. No one is complaining about the art for the Dark Souls role playing game. Everyone is saying that it is beautiful and just ripped right out of the world. But yeah, I'm looking forward to getting Mr. Bob Crumb's review on the game because he's the one who got me to buy it. I'm very excited about this. Hopefully, we'll do a one shot. It would be interesting to try and do a one shot, one-on-one one shot, Bob, of the Dark Souls RPG. Um, Also, I don't know if you heard this, Bob. There's a really great fifth edition, like a really spectacular fifth edition product that I may talk about at some point. That John Hodgson did, and his company. I think it's his company, or at least he just worked on it. It is the Beowulf RPG. It is designed. It is fifth edition, specifically designed for one-on-one play. One of you plays the hero of the saga, and then there's the GM who plays kind of everything else. And it looks to be really cool. And John Hodgson did a lot of the art. He did the art direction on the One Ring first edition, so he gets the Beowulf art, and it is one of the most beautiful role-playing games that has come out in the fifth edition space, in my opinion, in the last 5 years. I mean, right up there with Esterin's Fate Forge that they did, or Agate Studios' Fate Forge. That game is just stunningly beautiful. There's this difference, and maybe Ben and I'll have to have a discussion on this. We're thinking about doing a discussion, possibly a little show on European RPGs and why they just page for page are more beautiful than most American developed RPGs, right? You get like Agate Studio, where, hey, Phantom, good to see you, my friend. Right, you get Agate Studio, which is this role-playing game company that does full symphonic orchestral soundtracks to their games and beautiful full-page spreads, and it's an art house RPG studio. If you have not seen, let me see. This is their art book for their role-playing game, and that's the cover. Like, nobody is doing art like this in the US for role-playing games. This is like on par with the Angelarium, which I know Bob is a fan of. Nobody does gaming books like the French, the Spanish, the Swedish. Their game books are just so beautiful. Yeah, you probably heard of Esterin from me, Bob. It is rules light, right? Single D10 plus your attribute plus your skill. The whole game system has far more mechanics. You know how we've always talked, I realize we're supposed to be talking about Jackals and Eki Ezeru, and I promise we'll get there. But you know how we always talk about how you can tell what a game is about where the mechanics lie, right? Like Rackham. That's a great example. Hey, Professor, good to see you as well. Always good to see you. Right, what is the game reward? Where are the mechanics? That's what the focus of the game is. Let's look at Jackals. Jackals rewards skill use, and the core of the game is the clash system, which kind of tells you that combat is going to be important. That doesn't mean that there aren't great things to hang role-playing moments on, but this is sort of the core of it. So first of all, Arthur Rackham's art is also beautiful. Professor, you've got, I actually got a piece for my wife for Christmas 2 years ago of one of his owls and the castle. It was a game called Confrontation. There was was it Spanish, Bob? I want to say, no, it was French. Confrontation was French. And you had this, they came out of nowhere. And I really believe the reason that we have good looking models for Games Workshop right now is directly because of Confrontation. Games Workshop had kind of hit this stagnant view of their models in late to mid 2000s. And then bam, Confrontation shows up on the scene. It's a skirmish game. You don't need a ton of models. Their models are led, and each individual sculpt, any one of those sculpts blew anything GW was doing just completely out of the water. And like most companies, sadly, that are run by creatives, and I don't mean this as a negative thing. It is something that if you were a creative, you need to keep in mind, is that you had the creative who were running the company, and they were producing just by far the most beautiful minis that we have seen. And I agree with Bob. The reason we have better looking minis in like Age of Sigmar or Warhammer Fantasy, Warhammer 40k, it's because of Confrontation. But they didn't handle the business side very well. But again, their art was beautiful. Their role-playing game needed another translation pass. But what was that? Codwallin, the role-playing game. I think, did Paul Bonner do a lot of the art from that, Bob? Because I'm pretty sure he did. Speaking of beautiful role-playing games, I think we're going to talk about role-playing games and beauty today instead of what I had planned. This is the Trudevan Chronicles, and this has a very confrontation feel to it as well. Edward Guiton is what Bob is saying. So yeah, like, that was sort of the quality that we saw out of every confrontation book. The fact that it is no longer around is one of the biggest tragedies of the miniature game hobby. Maybe they had some similar influence. Trudevan has just gorgeous artwork. It's got a great game system. Maybe we'll do a Trudevan review at some point and just talk about beautiful European role-playing games. Because any day that I get to talk about beauty is just an amazing day. It also has, I will warn, if you look at Trudevan, it's got a very old world feel. So expect a little bit of nudity, but also expect a view of paganism from a place where pagans actually like come from. Right? All of the priests, if you're not sacrificing animals, you're not getting as much power as you can. And if you're not sacrificing people, you're still hampered. And they've got rules for all of that. It is beautiful. Did you just purchase Trudevan, Bob? You will not regret it. It is gorgeous, just start to finish. They may have an art book. If they do, I'll post a link in the chat. All of that to say, I don't even know how we got here, but beauty is something that's very close to my heart. If you guys want to know more about, if you want to just explore the beautiful, there's this great little book that my friend Ben introduced me to called A Short Introduction to Beauty. I'll put a link in the show notes and link it to the Amazon page. It is a wonderful explanation of why beauty is important and why we used to hold beauty as an objective truth in the world. And when we pulled that out, we are left only with truth and goodness. And if you only have 2 points, you immediately have extremes. It takes a third point, beauty, to ground us in the personhood of the people we're interacting with. Another great series of essays on beauty is Umberto Eco's, I think it's called On the Shoulders of Giants. I'll post it in the show notes as well because it is just a great series of essays by Umberto Eco, who is one of the greatest authors of our time. Just talking about beauty and light and darkness and painting and symbolism. The man was one of the great minds in the field of semiotics, which is essentially understanding symbolism. Also was a professional, like, concert level recorder playing. Wrote Folcott's Pendulum. Wrote The Name of the Rose. Wrote several other just masterful works of fiction. Thus proving that God doesn't play GURPS, or if he does, he randomly assigns point values to people because, I mean, seriously, that guy has so much talent, or had so much talent, that you're kind of like, that guy was built completely on a different point value system than I was built on. All right, so I said Jackals and I said Eki Ezeru, and gosh darn it, that's what we're going to talk about, at least for the next 15 minutes. So, one thing that I want to talk about with Jackals is I'm going to start publishing Jackals content and putting it up on DriveThruRPG. So I'll end up doing a series of polls on our Patreon, Discord server, on our Patreon, and on Instagram, if you follow Iconic Production there, to see kind of what people might find interesting for purchase, we're talking like 99 cents to a buck 99. I've got some monsters that I put together. I've got several adventures that I'm working on. I've got 2 new cultures that I could release for Jackals. So as people find these things interesting and vote on them, that's kind of how we're going to go forward into expanding Jackals beyond just the 3 core books that are going to be available here this year. Which is interesting because I'm also going to be reaching out to Bob to get some artwork done. Bob, know that there's going to be some artwork, art direction coming your way if you are interested and available. I may tap Simi as well. Simi of Doom. If you don't follow her on Instagram, you need to follow her on Instagram. I found Simi because she was doing Malazan Books of the Fallen art pieces and Baker Second Apocalypse art pieces and Anna Smith Sparks, I think it's Empires of Dust. And she did, if you followed the Fading Suns game, Bob did the beautiful stained glass image of some of our people. I know you did Father Bell. Bob, did you do the Saint Beatrice stained glass piece? It has been so long, I apologize if I'm forgetting that you did that piece. Simi did some of the other art. Oh, that piece is beautiful, and it is my iPad back screen. So yeah, I want to get some artists that I love working on some Jackals projects, bringing it to life. Bob being the main one, Simi being another one. Maybe get Rich Longmore as well. I've got some art contacts that I can use to put together some pretty premium Jackals content kind of going forward. Eki Ezeru is probably years off from being ready for publication, but that's sort of what we're going to be looking at today. Because, as Bob wrote on the back of that wonderful octopus piece, he is the guy who rips images out of my head and puts them on paper. This started a long time ago. Like Bob and I worked together on, and you can actually still get this on Drive-Thru RPG, Bob. I don't know if you know this. Um, oh man, Phantom, getting Brahm for the second edition cover of Jackals would probably bankrupt me, but would be wonderful. Brahm's art is just insane. But why do I need to go to Brahm when I have uh, Mr. Bob Crumb himself? Yeah, Agandos is still on Drive-Thru RPG. So if you want to see something that Bob and I worked on in the 4th edition era of uh, Dungeons and Dragons, we got 2 or 3 books out there. There's a little player's guide, the first part of an adventure series that never went anywhere, but is pretty tight. Like I still think that is a wonderful standalone adventure. And then we did something about the well of Pockin's Well, the in Tethlis, the Grand Market. And so Bob and I started working together on RPG products as long ago as that. Bob did all of my tattoo art. He's done Jackals work for me. He's done Tanar. Like you did the images of Histol and Ghost and the cover for the novel that I still haven't put together. I think that was one of those times where I was like, "Hey, I've got this extra 40K army. Can I trade it for art?" And you were like, "Yes." um, it is both a blessing and a curse, my friend. So anyway, that's things that are coming up for Jackals, but we're still in the western holds of exploring Eki Ezeru, and my group is not there yet. We'll do another after action report in May. They just finished up their first season. They've rescued a giant who had been blinded by a Muathnik, and they're returning to the colony in an attempt to have some downtime. They're going to take their seasonal actions this week. I'm actually really excited about getting through the first adventuring cycle with with my players. So we're investigating the Western holds, the burial mounds, the cities. Last time we talked about the sensory, right? What are they going to see? They're going to see regular lines. They're going to see these strange hills. They're going to see a couple of regular lines, burial mounds, dig sites, and Takan taboo markers. Right, the Takan don't like coming here because there's something, they know that there's something here. And the reason the Takan don't like coming here is one, the Kashaptu. The Kashaptu don't like even, let me make it this kind of clear. While there is sort of a prime evil in my world, and while there are collections of Rathic, there is no hierarchy among the Rathic, aside from this guy is the first and fallen, and everyone else kind of come after him. Mainly because the Rathic are spirits of chaos, and I don't believe there should be a hierarchy or an ordering, or even necessarily a ubiquitous alliance between them. So the Takan don't come near these mounds because of the Kashaptu. They definitely don't come near this place because the spirits of the Han are still quite potent, and the spirits of the Hulathi, the men of the children of silver, who inhabited the Western holds, are still strong and potent. So it's almost like a reversed ghost story, in which case, this case, the ghosts and the spirits that are here are, while they are bound, and while that is not a good thing, they offer their protection over this area. Think of it in sort of a Norse kind of tradition, in the fact that, right, the hero's spirit is bound into their burial mound, and that's where this is all coming from. So the Western holds this area outside the Dowardin Inokos, the Western Gate of, or Western Gates technically, because there are 4 gates leading into Eki Ezeru, is sort of the first time that my players are going to see something of the ancient world. Now remember, Jackals is a Bronze Age, but there has clearly been several cycles of civilization before them, even before this, right? There is sort of this very Greek idea that the Bronze Age is actually sort of the 3rd or 4th era of humanity, right? In Greek mythology, you have the Golden Men, then the Silver Men, and the Iron Men. And so at this point, we actually are seeing kind of this, I don't want to say devolution, because it is not the case. But, right, the Luwathi literally means the people, the children of bronze, the Hulathi, the children of silver. Before them, you had the Han, and that's kind of our through line of lawful civilizations. Before them, you have the Skesh, and before them, you have the Rathic, where the Rathic just roamed the world. And so we're seeing sort of this idea that, you know, it's a very pulp, it's a very old school fantasy feel, which is what I was going for, and actually an old school mythological feel, that kind of what has come before, what is now is somehow maybe there's a multiplicity of things, but it is a quantity over quality. There are fewer Hulathi during the time of silver, but they are of a better quality than the children of bronze. And even before them, there are these Han who are again of a sort of a higher essence, a more refined essence than what we have today. And so as you kind of look at the through line of Jackals, you have Rathic, which are beings of pure spirit. You have the Skesh and the Han, which are a admixture of flesh and spirit. To the point that even, sometimes when the Hulathi or when the Han were to die, even though their flesh fell, their spirit continued to exist for moments before passing on to wherever the Han went after death, or their spirit consumed their flesh because it was so potent. The Hulahi are humans, but they're sort of a spiritually blessed humanity, sort of like the Atlanteans, where they can tap into some of these things that the more perfectly balanced between flesh and spirit species were able to. And now you get into kind of the Children of Bronze, who work through analogies, they work through more anagogic magic, to steal a Baker term. They don't understand and they can't wield the principles and the law of creation to the same effect. All of that to say, this is kind of where this is the first step. The Western holds. If the colony represents home, the Western holds are sort of the boundary. Once the group passes into the Western holds, they are leaving sort of the mortal and the Zaharet's realms behind, and they will be moving more deeply into this previous age. And right, Eki Ezeru, it's under a mountain. It literally represents the underworld, or this time that has passed. So, what will they find here? Let's kind of knock out the top 5 things that they'll find in the design. And when we revisit it in 2 weeks, we'll have more things to work in. Well, they're going to find, again, the burial sites, which are not burial sites, right? This is sort of a red herring or a false flag. These are actually the homes of the Hulahi who lived here. Now, there was a great cataclysm when the city, when Eki Ezeru closed its doors. The Hulahi were dealing with the fall of Sardan, their kingdom, and so they sort of abandoned this place. There was no reason to be here. But a plague ripped through, and so there's a lot. It seems to be a burial site because there are so many dead, because this plague was just awful. The question is do I add? Is there a chance they could encounter the plague? That feels both awful as a writer, but also very flavorful and on point with both the world of Zaharet's and the inspirations, right? Read the Old Testament. Plagues are horrible things. The ghost of the plague, ooh. All right, Bob, let me ask you this. Is that a literal ghost? Is that a figurative ghost? Is that some sort of memory echo that the group could get drawn into and experience? The ghost Justinian. All right, so we're leaning into the fact that it is an actual ghost of the plague. I'm kind of seeing a tall figure wrapped in burial cloth, moving around, something like a mummy or a shade. Maybe that's something that the group can. All right, so we have a shade. They can put to rest. Yeah, no, I like that. I mean, right? It's the Bronze Age, right? So we have plagues are not caused by diseases; they are caused by spirits. And in fact, the plague that came here came out of the north. It was sent by Zedon's hand itself, right? It was something that was uh, caught and twisted and manipulated in the hand of evil, and then sent on a foul wind south from the frozen throne in the north. So, all right, put to rest and see a glimpse into the past. I like that. All right, so they can counter the plague. We will design that encounter in May. I love that idea. The burial sites that are actually just the old homes. I want one of these things to be the old law building. I want them to find what was the seat of power for this Hulathi city, and I want an observatory slash astronomy hill slash temple that they can find. I want those to be kind of my 3 set pieces. The old law building, the old observatory slash astronomy hill, and then the temple to Hesselman. Yeah, like a planetarium temple. Ooh, that's even better. All right, so we have burial sites, encounter with the plague, who is the shade. We have the buildings that they are encounter. And then I think I want them to meet the Hollow Children, at least a couple of them, who have dug tunnels under the ground and are coming up into the old area. And so we'll have to design the Hollow Children. Remember, the Hollow Children are that last generation of Han born in Eki Ezeru that were completely twisted and corrupted by the plague and by the Kashaptu. And so they're unaging. We keep coming back to this theme of things which won't die in Eki Ezeru. I'll put that down as a theme. And I'm thinking the Hollow Children are going to have some Honic features to them, but I want their eyes to just be inky wells of blackness that have, like, they don't actually have eyes. They just have pits. When they open their mouth, there is just it's basically a pit. Undeath, Bob says, undeath is a yearning to know what lies beyond life, besides just annihilation. Yes, I think that it's also the fear that there is nothing but annihilation, or a judgment that you are trying to escape. And that unlife is both this intersection of knowledge and fear, which never produces necessarily something good. And I like that. I like that a lot. And so that's what we're going to be talking about as we go through designing Eki Ezeru. I think the first Jackals PDF that I'm going to put out is actually the Monsters of the Valley of Troikas, which will be the Lukaraji, the Kashaptu, and the Hollow Ones. And we'll give some context, what the Valley of Troikas is, what Eki Ezeru is, and what these monsters are. Now, my players have already encountered a Kashaptu. Not one of the hungry ones, but one of the ones who actually exists in the world, one of the original 7 spirits, and they don't know it yet. And I'm really excited for that big reveal. Also, that'll be kind of our first step in explaining to the group what the Kashaptu are. So that brings me to an end of this episode of Behind the Screen. It's always good to see everyone in chat. Phantom, Professor, Bob, always good to see you. Thank you so much for joining me on this. To those of you who watch on YouTube, please leave a comment if you like what you're hearing. If you want to put a vote in for something about what you would like to see for Jackals, I would love that. Please check us out on, follow us on YouTube, subscribe there, follow us here on Twitch. If you really like what we do, please consider supporting the show through Patreon. Also, when I do reviews and such, I'll be putting the links, even when I talk about games that I love, I'll be putting the links to where you can purchase them, both on drive-thru and Amazon. If you like what you hear about them, you can use those links, pick them up there. So, again, speaking of beauty, Bob, and speaking of beautiful games, Thursday, we're going to be talking about Vaesen. And Vaesen is a game from Free League Publishing that is Nordic horror role-playing game. It's beautiful. I'm going to have a ton of art to flip through. And it's also unique in the way you handle monsters. The Vaesen are not threats you can fight, but rather puzzles to understand and deal with. And I think it's really an interesting take on horror gaming. Because again, as soon as you assign stats to something, theoretically, mechanically, it can be killed. It's just a bigger bag of hit points. Vaesen deals with this by completely removing that from the game. So we'll talk a lot about Vaesen on Thursday. Again, next week, we've got the... It is not for the Murder Hobo, Bob, no. So next week we have the literary influences and authors that I think you guys may enjoy, at least where I get inspired by. We'll also say, please listen to the warnings that I give around certain series. If you are easily offended or easily influenced, there are several series that I will say, hey, these may not be for you. And then on Thursday, I'm going to have Evan on, and we're going to talk about Chaosium Con, all of the fun things that we did, all of the fun conversations, things we saw, that sort of thing. So, until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, stay gaming, and I will see all of you on Thursday for more Behind the Screen. And again, if you are able to join us tonight on the Ulysses International channel for the tour game at 7:30, it promises to be wild, as it always is. Kowalski and Brother Block do not allow a moment to pass without turning up the intensity. But we have a big announcement for that show and for Iconic Productions channel. So hopefully we'll see you there. And if not, I will see you on Thursday for more Behind the Screen. Have a good one.